Hello, guys. How are you doing? We're here at the Real Estate Convention in Atlantic City. And guess who I have here? Sean Alice. Sean Alice is a coach,
Yeah.
trainer. Um, we're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
The
Sean?
ugly, probably, but yeah, that's good.
Well, but we're going to have fun in the process anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me, how long have you been in the real estate business?
So in the real estate side, I've been on the sale. I was on the sales side for 25 years as a recovering realtor.
Recovering?
Yeah,
What
recovering.
is the meaning of recovering
It's
real?
just like recovering alcohol, you know. It's like
Really?
I don't do real estate sales anymore.
Uh-huh.
But about 3 years ago, I moved on this from the sales side to the mortgage side.
So are you trying to say that we realtors are,
You should drink a lot.
we are real addicts?
Real
Or what?
addicts.
Uh-huh.
So my, when I moved to the mortgage side, I realized that, buddy of mine plays guitar, right?
Uh-huh.
You ever see the guy in New York City where they play the guitar and the guy,
Yes.
and you walk up and he'll say, "Hey, play a song with me."
Yes.
If you ever notice, the people that are really good, he'll always say to him, the person walks up, they'll say, "Hey, what key do you want to play this in?"
Yes.
And I'm like, And then you listen to people that don't ask him what key it is, that sound like crap.
Uh-huh.
But the people that ask what key it is, they actually know what they're talking about. And I realized that I moved to the mortgage side 3 years ago as a full-time loan officer with the 5th largest bank in the United States.
So you were a real estate agent before?
I was a real estate agent for 25 years. I did for about the last 10. I was a coach and trainer.
Uh-huh.
I worked for the KWs of the world and the big, like Weichertz and all those companies. And I basically coached teams in real estate.
I see.
I'm like an idiot savant when it comes to numbers. I can look at the numbers and go, you need to pre-qualify more. You need to ask more questions. You need to get in front of more people. All that stuff.
So you left real estate. Why did you leave real estate?
It's such a great question. After I did 2,000 transactions as an agent, but here's the catch: I never bought a deal, and I never had a team more than 5. So I actually touched just about every one of those transactions.
Uh-huh.
So at some point, I was like, you know what? I said this to my now boss. He goes, you look like your eyes glaze over when you talk about real estate. And
Really?
I go, dude, if I see another purple kitchen, I'm going to hang myself.
Uh-huh.
And then he came to me and he said, but when you're coaching our salespeople, I was coaching his mortgage people.
Uh-huh.
He goes, like, you get so passionate and so excited, we got to pull you off the ceiling. You get so crazy. He goes, you're in the wrong business. You need to be coaching realtors and working with them to do their mortgages and stuff. He goes, provide them the coaching and let them give you the mortgages. And that's what I do.
Appreciate exactly what you're talking about, but I'm going to make some correction.
Yeah.
I heard from a very prominent politician, but I'm going to tell you rather story. I was attending this real estate convention in Vegas.
Yeah.
The Inman Real Estate Convention.
Inman News.
Yes,
Yeah.
Inman News. And 2 very successful multi-million-dollar real estate agents were conducting this session. They were speaking in front of 500-600
Right.
real estate agents, and one of them actually mentioned, I listed this property for $15 million.
Right.
6% commission, do the numbers.
Right.
Then the realtor next to me,
$900,000.
who was there, sold the house for $22 million. $7 million more than what the seller thought he would get,
Right.
which was $15 million. Do the numbers.
Right.
6% of $22 million.
Right.
The buyer performs an inspection. The inspection reveals that the seawall was compromised.
Right.
The repair of the seawall, the cost would be $1.5 million.
Right.
The selling agent goes to the listing agent and tells the listing agent, you have to repair this.
Right.
My buyer offered $7 million above asking price, so I think it would be reasonable for the seller to pay for this.
Right. Did he laugh at him?
Well, sometimes real estate agents don't know how to negotiate.
Right.
And they engage in this power struggle that compromises the integrity of the real estate transaction. To make the long story short, the seller said no. The listing agent tells the seller, these people pay $7 million
over.
more.
Right.
Well, if they pay $7 million more, it's because they want the house. So they have to repair the seawall. The transaction fell apart. One of the real estate agents got psychologically affected by it, left the business for a year.
Right.
A year later, inserted herself back into the business. But it is amazing how the burnout comes not from the situation itself, Sean,
No.
but how you handle the problem.
So it's so interesting you're saying that. The new model that I'm working on is called, and I'm writing a new book. This is our second book. My first book was actually a #1 bestseller. It was believe it or not, the book I wrote was how to sell a house on your own and save the commission. And people, when I was a realtor, I wrote it, and people said,
I think I heard about it.
It's called the
book.
10X House Selling Secrets.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon. It was a #1 bestseller in 6 hours, right?
What is the name of the book?
It's the 10X House Selling Secrets, how to sell your house on your own and save the commission. And people are like, why on God's green earth would you write that book as a realtor? And I go, well, George, 85% of the people that read that book that are trying to sell their house on their own will eventually call the realtor.
That is true.
65% will call the first person they talk to. So what I did is I wrote the book. And by the way, that book is exactly what I did to list a house, which is very convoluted if you're not a professional. So you get to like chapter 1 and go, I'm not doing this. I'm just going to call this guy. And you go to the back page.
Yes, of course.
And of course, when I would give you the book, I would write in like a felt tip marker. And I tell agents that use my book, and I go, just write your name inside the inside cover and say, hey, I'll call you in a week. You're not ready right now, I'll call you in a week. By the time you call them in a week, they're so overwhelmed that they want to hire you. So it's, the new book I'm writing is called the Success Addicts Collective, right? And it's really, it's the success addiction. I call it the success addiction. It's the wealthy addiction, and exactly what you're talking about, people getting burnt out. That's because the coaches that are like, we've been in the business before, I call it BC, right? Before color TV, right? So, but the realtors that have been, or the coaches that have been in after 2014,
yes,
they're like, hey, George, you want to do twice as much, you got to make twice as many phone calls. You got to get up an hour earlier. You got to call this many people. You got to close harder. And it's all about hard. And I'm like, George, you get up, brush your teeth this morning? Did you brush your teeth this morning?
Of course.
Smells like it.
Of
right?
course.
Did you have to like get up and tell yourself and do a chant that says, I'm going to brush my teeth this morning? No. Why?
You do it automatically.
Automatically.
Yes.
It's a habit.
Yeah, it is.
Motivation and inspiration, all that stuff goes out the window.
Habit too.
It goes, well, you need the discipline and the motivation in the beginning. But real success comes from when it becomes a habit. If you have to be disciplined every day, and you have to be motivated every day, you do exactly what that woman just did. She burns out. Because it's unnatural for somebody to be motivated 24/7. I take Ritalin at a very high level to keep me motivated. And it still don't work.
But I have to tell you one thing, Sean. You went through the collapse of the real estate market in 2007. For me, it was brutal.
I got a scar here somewhere.
Yes. I have two.
We have war badges.
You call it war badges.
Right.
I'm going to start using that.
War badges.
And the real estate market collapsed in 2007. 6 months later, you wonder what the hell is going to happen with me, with my family, with the properties that I own, with my assets, with my goals, my dreams. What is going to happen with that?
So here, interestingly enough, I'm going to hold you on that thought for 1 second. I got my license in 96. I opened the first Christie's Great Estates office in Hudson County, New Jersey. I bought the first franchise in 07. I was open for about an hour and a half. 08 hits. I watched the market go down 45% in 45% in 6 months. Prices go down 50% in the same period of time. Do you know that I had the best year I ever had was 2008 and 9 in my career?
I don't doubt it.
I did 153 units in the worst market ever. And the reason why we weren't motivated.
But why would someone like you, for example, who have written a book, who is writing another book, who is a motivator, who is a coach? I mean, speaking with you, I see how objective, grassroots, down to earth your approach to real estate is. Why would you feel demotivated and venture out into the mortgage business?
So when I was doing real estate, I coached the consumer. And I coached my realtor partners who I did mostly, out of 2,000 transactions, probably 1,850 of them were listings. So I would be on the phone with the buyer agent, coaching that agent. And bear in mind, that lady who's now the buyer, working with the buyer, the average agent only works on 3 deals a year.
That is true.
So you're operating, you're going to do surgery on me, and you operate once every 3 months. I don't even want you coming near me with a scalpel.
But I'm going to tell you what the main problem here is. The main problem, Sean, is, do you know what the percentage of real estate agents that begin to fail within the first 6 months is?
Absolutely.
72%.
72%.
And I attribute that it is not the fault of the realtor, the failure. It's the broker.
Yes.
Most brokers, you're a coach and you understand, we speak the same language. Most real estate brokers are just brokers that have a broker license, but they're not business people.
They're brokers by name, but not by action, and not by their. Here's what I always kind of. I was in the Rangers in the Army, the United States Army. I was like one of 12 guys that graduated of 125 guys.
Ranger.
Yes. So, and what's funny is, when I operated a real estate team, I could never figure out why I couldn't get more than 5 people on a team. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I was trained not to have more than 6 people. I was trained because anything more than 6 becomes kind of convoluted. You can't really control it. That's why Ranger teams and SEAL teams, they're very small. They're like 3 to 5 man teams because they're easier to control. And what's interesting is you talk about like the broker. When we started out, the broker was the coach. The broker was the trainer. The broker was the guy who gave you the years of wisdom. Now you talk to the broker got a license. He used to work on Wall Street. He was in the real estate for 3 years. He bought the business by spending money on advertising. Never really went to go get the business. You either advertise for business or you go get it. I was from the school of go get it, because if I go get it, I save 30 to 40% on a deal that I'm going to spend for advertising. I get them. It just costs me my time.
Yeah.
Right. The brokers, though, on the other hand, you're talking about people like our industry has changed to where brokers are now more business people, and they're bringing in outside coaches and people like you and me.
But I disagree that brokers are business people.
They're not very good business people. I'm just saying
they're
not all of
horrible.
them. Not all of them.
I would say probably at 95, 96% of real estate brokers are just that.
Yeah.
Guys with a broker license, they open a real estate company that is not going to ever be, I mean, they make a living out of real estate, but they do not become successful per se.
No. Yeah.
They don't understand what the definition of success is.
You know what the real definition is? That you ever heard of Earl Nightingale Coning, right?
Yes, of course.
So there's 2 definitions I always remember when you bring that up. The first one is success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or a worthy ideal, which is Earl Nightingale's definition. So like when I was in coaching and training, I worked with some of the Tony Robbins personally. Mike Ferry was my coach in the 90s. And I would say, well, what about a drug dealer? And he'd say, well, it's not a worthy ideal.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. But then at some point I met Mike's coach. It was a guy named Michael Vance. He was the guy who created Thinking Out of the Box. He was Walt Disney's creative director. He put the sound under the rock at It's a Small World, that ride. And Mike said, success, oh, that's easy. It's like standing in a hammock on one foot and juggling eggs. It's success eludes most people, in my opinion.
I don't think success eludes people, Sean. I'll tell you this.
So what do you think it is then?
So many people do not understand the true definition of success, that is based on certain behaviors, certain habits, certain goals.
So wait, tell me more about
those goals.
Give me one success habit.
Well, I'm gonna give. Well, it's not about the habit, because I can tell you 7 if I read the.
Right, 7 habits of highly
successful people.
Never heard of that book.
I can give you 7. I could give you the 7 not understanding what the definition of success is. Success is, to me, when I was a real estate agent before I became a broker, I would sell one house and I wasn't happy. I would sell them 3 houses and I wasn't happy. I would sell 5 houses a month
Right.
and I was
Still not happy. Still not
I
happy.
would sell 8 houses a month and I still was not happy.
Yep.
To the point that my wife,
Right. Been there.
who was my girlfriend back then, would say, "When are you going to be happy?" I said, "Never."
Listen to what you just said.
That's
when
the definition
when did she
of
last?
success.
Listen to how she asked the question. I'm going to touch on something. When are you going to be happy? So here's what's interesting is, and this goes back to what I'm writing in our new book. You know, it's we were trained as children to be, do, have, right? I want to be to do, have, be, which is I want to be an astronaut. Okay, be an astronaut. You got to do these things every day. Then in order to do that, once you do that, you're going to have these things, and then you could be an astronaut. The problem is, how many people have you met, like in the real estate business, they're constantly doing. They never get to have, and they never get to be that person. And what our model is, what I propose, and what my coaches taught me was, be the astronaut now. Find somebody like George who's done it already. Let him model you to teach you on the habits or the success traits that you're going to do so that you can have all the things that an astronaut has. And the challenge is, when I would do coaching, when I do coaching with people, I say to you all the time, I'll go, George, and because I was in the military, right?
Yes, of course.
There's a minefield between you and me. I'm on the side where I've been successful. You're on the other side. It's snowing out. Do you make your own footsteps in the snow, or do you want to step in mine? Of course, you're going to walk in my footsteps.
Of course.
The problem is most people have this little word in their head. It's the smallest word in the English language. It's called ego, ego. They get about halfway across and they go, "Oh, I got this. I know what I'm doing, George. I don't need you. I don't need you anymore."
Yes.
And all of a sudden, boom, and they blow up.
Yeah.
And then they come back to you with their hands in their lap going, I made a mistake. Can I follow you again?
Yeah. But there's a problem in real estate.
What's that problem?
I was taking flying lessons long time ago, and I asked my instructor, at what time do most people crash a plane and get into an accident? He said between 300 to 350 hours of flight.
Really?
When you have an accumulation of 300 hours, you've been flying a small plane, a Cessna 172. And I asked him, why between 300 to 350? He said, because that's when the pilot becomes
complacent.
Arrogant.
They become complacent.
I got it. I know it. And they start doing things that they're not supposed to do. In the real estate business, the same thing happens.
Every time.
The productivity span of 95% of real estate agents is 3 to 5 years. Many of them remain in the business after 5 years, but the productivity is never the same as the first 3 years.
So how many years have you been doing real estate, George?
Over 30 years.
30 years.
Longer than you.
In the first 5 years, let me ask you a question. Do you remember that first year you had a really great year? The year that you killed it? Like you were like...
Yes. Yeah.
What happened the next year?
Well, the next year, the real estate market collapsed in 1991.
The real estate market didn't collapse. You did.
No. The real estate market collapsed. When you get into a real estate business,
I remember.
And a year later, the real estate market sinks, you go like, what am I going to do?
91 rates went to like 14%.
In 1 year, actually, when I got into the business, the interest rate was 12%.
12%.
And I was killing it.
Yeah.
Then in 91, 92, the interest rate went down to 9.5%. And I was still killing it. I was already a broker. Many times, Sean, I open the doors of my office and look around and ask myself, what the hell am I doing here?
Absolutely.
In 94, 95, right after the collapse of the real estate market, in 1996, I was able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. 1997, my real estate company started rolling again. But I'm going to tell you this. Today, 2024, I go back 5 years. 5 years ago, I thought I knew everything.
Yep.
Today, in 2024, realize I didn't know as much as I know now.
So,
and in 2020, I thought I knew everything.
Right.
But going back to 2015, I didn't know anything. You're absolutely right, Sean. You need to adapt, you need to renovate, you need to reinvent yourself.
You know, it's interesting is that you're saying it because I look back and I do a lot of coaching with realtors and all of them are, they're following these guys who've been around for all of but a minute after 2015, 2000. They've never been in a down market. And and I'm humble enough to where my first year I did 23 transactions and I did 110 rentals in Hoboken in the first year, and I worked a full-time job. Right. The second year I did 100. I did like 42 sales, and I was like full of myself. I thought I was a genius. The next year I actually went down to 28, and then when I look back on it, I know exactly what happened was my ego got the best of me. I became complacent, and I was like, and you know what's funny is you need that to happen. I think sometimes just to remind you to go, oh, I don't want to do that again. Like I remember, I don't want to touch that stove. And now, like when I started doing more coaching than real estate, some of the younger people say, oh, you don't understand, it's different. And I said to somebody the other day, I go, I got into the mortgage space in May of 2022. The second week in the business, I go to our first sales meeting from what I'm told, I didn't know, and since COVID, and the sales manager comes out, he's like, it's going to be the worst. This is the worst mortgage market I've ever seen in my life in 30 years. And I'm sitting there in the front seat going, all right, bring it on. Here we go.
Yes.
Right. But like in 2008, when the market crashed, I actually would bring everybody in my office, and every morning I would say, hey, listen, look at the hot sheet. The hot sheet is, by the way, if you don't know, the hot sheet shows you all the activity that happened in the past day or a week or a month. And I would go, George, there was 10 people that sold the house yesterday. There was 5 people that listed a house yesterday. Just show up and get in front of somebody.
Yes.
Have 25 conversations today. And if you need to have more to find somebody that's going to buy, sell, or invest in a home, great. And, but again, I was leading by example. I know your office. You led by example. So you were very successful. But the brokers that are asleep at the wheel, I call them the no-show job. You know what the no-show job is?
Yeah.
Is, George, I'm going to use your license to run my real estate office. Do you need me to come in? No, I just need your license for compliance.
Yeah.
They don't come into the office. I mean, that, to me, I think that model is going to change.
And I'm going to tell when you say that the model is going to change, I was having a conversation with a very successful real estate a few minutes ago, a very good friend of mine. And one of the things that I do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, is I look and analyze certain new concepts of real estate that have been created.
Yeah.
That are the ones that I call multi-level bullshit concepts, where bring some agents here, some agents here, and when they produce, you're going to get this amount of money. It's predicated on bullshit and smoke screens, and those concepts have moved away from the true concept of real estate, and now they became a
find a buyer, find a seller, get in the middle.
Monthly fee concept, multi-level marketing.
Yeah, those models, those managers of those offices will say they'd be better off property managing, because really what they're managing is they have 20 desks. Each desk is worth 15 grand a month, and they need to put somebody in it, and they can either rent the desk for 3 grand a month and hope that they make X.
Some of these don't even have a desk.
They don't even have a desk.
They don't even have an office.
Yep.
How could you run a successful team of real estate agents that need to be coached? Let me ask you a question, Sean. What sports do you like?
Golf, football, baseball.
Okay, let's talk about football. We're watching a Super Bowl
American
game.
Football or
American football.
American football, like
any football,
up here, not down there.
But let's talk about American football. Which team do you like? Don't tell me the Eagles.
It's the Jets. I live in Florham Park. They pay my taxes.
Okay.
It's the only reason. I'm embarrassed.
I see. But let's say, for example, your team is playing the Super Bowl.
Yep.
You know what is the name of the Super Bowl trophy?
I don't even know.
The Vince Lombardi Trophy.
Right. Greatest coach ever lived.
Exactly. That's why it is called the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
You know how he started his first, very, very first practice? I watched a video on it. My coach made me watch it. The very first practice he had these guys that were like the best in the country, right? They would show up and he'd go, "This gentleman is a football." And he would explain the football. Then he would take out their cleat. He would say, "Gentlemen, here is the way we put our socks on and we wash our socks. And we use clean socks so we don't get blisters. And here's how you tie your shoe." And what's interesting is people asked him and they said, why? And he's like, because if they don't put clean socks on, they have like their lucky socks, they get blisters and they're out of the game.
Yes.
They don't tie their shoes right, their shoe comes off and the guy runs past them and goes for a touchdown.
Yes.
Like my kid was going to Penn State. I've been watching them, they're doing great. And I'm watching and I'm like, you just had four or six personal fouls. So I'm like you, I'm a numbers guy. I don't know a lot about sports, but I know numbers. And I'm like, you just gave away 100, that's 100 yards is a touchdown. Yeah. You gave away 100 yards in personal fouls. Like, where is that? At what point does the coach come and sit you down and go, you do that again, you're out?
Yeah.
I don't care how good you play.
But let me transfer that to real estate.
Absolutely.
In the middle of a game, the coach is in the sidelines.
Yeah.
I personally consider myself a sideline coach. The sideline coach in a football game is communicating through a mic to who? To the quarterback.
Excuse me.
He's telling the quarterback how to play, how to throw the ball.
Right.
The receiver needs to understand and anticipate what is the quarterback thinking.
What's he doing before he does it?
Exactly. But the coach, the silent coach, is the one assembling, structuring the game that was discussed.
Orchestrating it.
Exactly. And many of these real estate brokers have a team that are playing the Super Bowl on a daily basis, and they do not understand, I have to be a silent coach, coaching my team, telling my players on the field how to play so that they can assemble and put together more real estate transactions. Basketball game, how many quarters do you have to win or lose a game?
All right, got 4, that's it.
4 quarters, that's it. You don't have 5 quarters.
But you're not even splitting atoms, and you're
when
dealing.
Someone is making a mistake, the coach will go, timeout, come here. What the hell is that?
Right.
In the real estate, brokers are not doing that anymore.
They used to. They used to. Now, they're afraid to do that because they don't want to lose the head count. Remember when I don't know if you remember this. It's probably now 15 years. Remember that New Jersey was one of the last states in the union to have continuing ed implemented.
Yes.
And I said to somebody who had now passed away, you would know his name, he ran the Hudson County Board of Realtors, Liberty Board of Realtors.
Yes.
Sweetheart.
Yeah.
And I said to him one day, I go, why don't we do that? And he goes, because then the agents will have to be compliant, and all these agents all these brokers that have rosters of 300 agents that never show up to the office have to go take continuing ed. And if they don't, they're going to be out. And they're going to lose half their roster. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. He goes, they pay the bill.
Yeah.
They keep the lights on. And I'm like, okay, I didn't get that part. So, but I mean, to your point is, we talked about this in the green room before, and I said, one of the things about the Success Addicts and our whole concept is it's not grind or burn out. It's align. It's learning to align. And one of those things is, and what you said a minute ago is, realtors have a very specific language. And when I was a real estate agent, I would talk to you as a realtor differently than I would talk to the borrower.
Yes, of course.
And I would talk to the borrower and the loan officer different than I talk to the realtor. And now what I've kind of learned from working on the mortgage side, people said, oh, well, what makes you expert? I started in the mortgage business where it's the absolute worst market ever, and I've doubled my business every year for the past 3 years. That's no accident. It takes effort. And people in our industry, in mortgage, are like, how'd you do that? Like, is all the people you know? I go, no. I get up, I'm on the phone, I make 25 calls a day and have 25 conversations with guys like George. Hey, George, I'd love to talk to you about it. Have a cup of coffee, learn more about your business. Looks like you're killing it. And people are like, oh, that's a script. I'm like, of course it is. Like, doing real estate without a script is like playing football without a helmet.
Everything is a script in the real estate business. Sean, let me tell you, we could speak 24/7.
Oh my God.
you and I, because we speak the same language,
do.
we understand each other. So to say goodbye, number one, what would you say to real estate agents in today's real estate market after the National Association of Realtors, that in my opinion push out of the business 70% of the real estate industry, being replaced by a new group of realtors? What would you say to them, and what do we have to do to get you back into the business?
So, first of all, thank you, and it's an honor to actually just. I honest to God, it's not very often I have that conversation where we can speak at the same speed. I don't have to go backwards to go forwards because you get it,
Thank you.
and it's refreshing. And you said to me offline, you go, listen, I don't hold anything back, and I'm like, okay, we'll get along great.
Yes.
I think the big thing and by the way, getting back in the business, I am back in the business, except that really what I'm doing now is I'm helping the realtor align with their mortgage loan officer, whether that's me or another loan officer, and I'm helping coach them on how to communicate. You know, like we were talking about, like what key you're going to play the music in?
Yeah.
I want to get you guys to be on the same page. So when you communicate to the borrower and the inspection goes sideways,
Yes.
we could talk about that collectively and go, you know, over the years, I've done a few of these. Here's how I maybe you might want to try this, or you might want to try that. The other piece of that is what I recommend is we're going into an economy and in a market that's unprecedented. 2008 is not like 2024.
Totally agree. Yeah.
You know, and what I kind of learned over the years, my wife, who is definitely the smartest person in my house, every time I would go to her and say,
women always are
women rule the
smarter
world.
than men.
I 100% subscribe to women rule the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, but my wife always she said something interesting to me one time. She goes, every year, at the end of the year, I go, well, this happened or that happened. And she said, Sean, every year something happens. She goes, but you should be able to build a business that accounts for that.
Yeah.
What I challenge you to do is work with George, work with me, work with somebody. By the way, somebody who has actually made it to the other side of the minefield when the market is going down, not up. Next time you're coaching with somebody and they say, hey, I increased my business 25%. By the way, I just said I doubled my business 3 times in the 3 years. I doubled it 3 times while the market went down every year for 3 years. So I didn't really double it. I actually, in some cases, did it 150%. I challenge you to find a coach or a mentor or a broker or somebody that's going to lead you that has seen the dark side.
Yes.
And go pick a path and then find the one thing. Like in our business model, you know, I say it all the time. I believe everybody needs a good coach. I also believe that everybody has at least $1 billion blind spot, one hole in their business or in their life that if I figure it out, and like the dam, if I go like this and I put my finger in it, your business will take off like a rocket. And that to me is finding that person that can actually look at your business or whatever you're doing and go, hey, I've seen this before. Let me find your $1 billion blind spot. If you can't find it, reach out to me, reach out to George. I'm happy to do it.
There you have it, guys. You know, Sean Hellis from Success Addicts.
Success Addicts Collective. You can find us on Facebook, or I'm a top producing loan officer at the 5th largest bank in the United States. Recovering realtor. I'd love to help you.
We're going to have more of these conversations. I really appreciate it, Sean. Thank you very much for accepting to participate in this
Thanks
podcast.
for invigorating me. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm jazzed up. I can't wait to go back to work.
So, what is the name of your book again? Because
the new book is the Success. The first book is.
What about the first book?
Because the first book, you can get it on Amazon. It's a 10x house selling secrets.
10x house selling secrets. And it is a listing tool for real estate agents.
It's a listing tool for realtors to actually generate more for sale by owners. If you want, we'll actually do another podcast. We'll talk about it. We'll give them the strategy on how to do it. How's that?
But next time, promise me that you will have the book so that we can show it right here.
I'm hoping to have both of the books. The new one is going to be even better. It's the Success. It's called the Success Addiction, the Wealthy Addiction. I want to help foster your. You are not even like you're one of those guys. Like in our ecosystem, we have people that are learning We have success addicts, and then we have success junkies. Me and you are success junkies. You're
I
like,
take that as a compliment. Thank you.
brother,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank
you, man.